And we are live. Hello and welcome to Developer Insights. I'm David.
And I'm Justin.
And together we are the leads on game development and design here at Codename.
We also founded Codename, so we've got that going for us too.
We will be your hosts for this episode and for every episode.
Yeah, you're stuck with us forever.
It's still true.
Today is our 41st episode.
41. I don't think there's anything special about 41.
Yeah, you're right. But 200, now that's an impressive number.
Are you talking about Mars reaching episode 200 of Mars's Guiding Hand this week?
Yes, he had a cake with 200 candles and everything.
Man, I hope we get a cake at 200 episodes.
At our current rate, that's going to take us 4 more years.
We're going to have to shoot for a lower number. I don't think I can wait that long for a cake.
Yeah, maybe like 42.
Yeah, we'd have to do a lot more episodes a week.
Anyway, we are here to answer your development and design questions about Untitled Champions.
And if you don't have any questions, however, you might have to suffer through Justin's one-man reenactment of the new Lego Star Wars, the Star Wars Saga game.
I mean, the Skywalker Saga.
Yeah, sure, right, the Skywalker Saga.
Yeah, but isn't that that's like 9 movies worth of stuff? That's
sure, but the reviews say that it's more entertaining than many of them, or most of them, or them in general.
I feel like we've beaten this joke to death already.
I just like to get a few more kicks in whenever I can. All right. As always, we have pulled in some questions from the previous show that we did not get to, and we will answer some of those while we're waiting for new questions to come in. As well as today, Justin's got a fairly lengthy update on some of the new updates that are coming out next week. So let's
wow.
Yeah.
We're pretty good at this. I can't believe we've done this 41 times before.
Wait till we get to 200 and we will be much better by then. Yes, I hope. Anyway,
not.
Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, so I wanted to give everyone an update on what is coming out with regards to the dismantle system that we've been talking about, as well as some of the other things we've been talking about on the show that have been we've said have been coming soon. So the plan currently, and this could all change, but the plan currently is to release the dismantle system next week. The dismantle will be available for 3 champions off the bat. Ashara, Briv, and Human. Yes, this means that the Briv and Human changes will hit on the same day. So next Wednesday is is sort of the plan for that. The dismantle event will last for 3 weeks. So you'll have 3 weeks to fully dismantle Ashara, Briv, and Human. And you will also have 3 weeks to do a free legendary dismantle on any other champion. So you'll be able to dismantle their legendary gear and pass it along to other champions if if the synergies that you had with Ashara don't work anymore and you want to do that. And that was a change that we made based on your guys' feedback during the previous shows, and on Steam and in the Discord and everywhere that you guys gave feedback on. So just to summarize sort of the changes that are coming to Briv and Human. Briv will no longer be able to skip boss areas in non-free play adventures. If you would have skipped over a boss area, you will skip to that boss area, and then once you defeat the boss, you'll skip back over to whatever area you were going to skip to. So you just have to stop and kill the boss. Shouldn't be much of a problem. You just stab the boss right in the eye, and that takes care of it. Briv will also be getting their long-awaited skip cap feat that will allow you to limit Briv's skip to 4 areas, so that in your gem free play with Briv, you can just skip over boss areas infinitely and not have that be messed up by getting another item level on Briv. For Human, they will be getting their numbers adjusted downwards so that it's no longer possible to have single kill quests with only Human. That mechanic still will be possible with a combination of speed champions, but the big thing we don't want to allow in the game is for one champion to basically provide that kind of buff. So you'll still be able to probably get down to single kill quests if you use like Human and Melf and Sentry, say, but you wouldn't be able to do that with just Human. And one of the ways that we're going to be addressing that is by capping his slot 4 gear. which means that another long-awaited thing that will come out on that same day is equipment item level cap refunds. So if you've got equipment that is at the item level cap, for example, a lot of the slot 6 ultimate cooldown equipment ends up this way, then you will have that item or have those items reduced down to the item level cap, which won't change their effectiveness. And then you'll get blacksmithing contracts equivalent to the item levels that were over the cap. So you'll get a bunch of blacksmithing contracts from that. That check will occur every time you load the game, when you switch parties or start a new adventure. So it won't necessarily trigger right when you, say, get equipment that takes you over the cap, but it will sort of the next time you reload the game or reload your adventure. And in the future, we might fiddle around with that to make it actually happen when you get a golden or shiny item that puts you over the cap, or a blacksmithing contract or duplicate that puts you over the cap. But for now, it's just going to trigger at the beginning there, just because it's less confusing, ironically, because if you, say, got a golden item for someone and then you also got a bunch of blacksmithing contracts at the same time, that might just be like, why do they get those? So we'll find a better way to kind of present that before we end up doing that. And then the fifth major thing that's coming out Wednesday, in addition to the content update that's normally coming out, and the balance update that will also come out to buff some of the Year 5 champions, will also be releasing a soft cap increase. So it's going to be a big Wednesday, with any luck, assuming we manage to get all the everything buttoned up by that day. And all of these details will be on the Idle Champion blog soon, so you will be able to check out the details without having to try and understand me as I stutter through them. But yeah, that's everything.
All right. Now, before we proceed into the questions, there was a question that came up in the chat while you were talking, and it was actually a question that I also had as you said it, and that was, what if, in regards to stabbing the boss in the eye, if it does not have eyes, or it has many, many eyes?
So, I guess beholders, you have to stab them in all 11 eyes at once. Start on the outside, work your way in, get the middle eye for last. I don't know what you do with bosses that don't have any eyes. I'm trying to think of what that would just be, like plant-based bosses, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess you're kind of out of luck.
Anyway, that was a question from the lurking writer, and it was something that I also had as you spoke, so I was thinking the same thing. All right, let's move on to the questions left over from the previous show. Starting out here with a question from JDog2773 asking, are there any plans to eliminate the see all loot display from the chest opening process? Possibly as an option that we could toggle on or off.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting idea. We don't want anyone to miss anything that is like a big upgrade or something, but I think when you have when all of the loot that you would see on the see all loot is like duplicate stuff or potions or just stuff that you probably don't care about, I think that would be a situation where we could kind of let you skip past that, just to make chest opening go a little faster, especially when you're opening 50 at a time kind of thing. But we'd still want to try and like stop and get to that screen if there's enough stuff there that's interesting.
Okay.
That's my feeling on it, at least. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think after over a certain amount of time, or at a certain loot level, then it starts to become a case of, just moving on. Okay.
You want to take the next one here?
I'm not ready yet.
Okay. Well, I'll read it to you.
Sure.
It's from Hypnotic Sheep, and their cue is, can Electrum chest redemption function similarly to patron chests, where it just pops up a +1 and allows you to continue redeeming codes?
Yeah, that's an interesting. I mean, this seems like it's been a more and more common question. I know code redemption is something that I was just thinking. I feel like I saw somebody had said something recently saying they literally stopped playing the game because it was too difficult.
We got an email.
They'd taken a break from the game due to the difficulty or the tedium of entering codes.
The sheer number of codes, if you get them all. Yeah.
And it does feel like we could think about revisiting that system to make that easier. Definitely, that's an interrupted process. I think when we initially put that together, we didn't think we'd be giving out quite so many codes. I think anything we can do to make that less interrupted would probably make the flow more pleasant. So we should put some thought into it.
Yeah, it's an interesting kind of conundrum because like obviously a lot of people kind of go and get the codes from like the Discord has a code channel, and there's other sort of tools that people have created that that allow you to put in the codes a little bit easier. But it's the sheer number of codes is certainly challenging to put in the system. But the purpose of the codes, one of the purposes of the codes, is sort of to get people to go out and find them. And when we put a code in in say a tabletop RPG stream, we're not doing that necessarily just so people can get some free loot, right? We're doing it so people will go and watch that game and enjoy that game and engage with that community. And so I think if we make it, I don't know, the initial kind of idea of the codes is like, you go out and engage with some other D&D content and get a code, and then you can come back and put that in. But it's kind of turned into just stream of codes directly into your chest inventory. So it's a tough conundrum of sort of how we want to optimize that system.
Yeah, but I mean, on the other hand, at this point, we've got a lot of codes going out. People are putting them in, and having the UI be kind of cumbersome to do a large number at a time feels kind of like you're getting punished for it. So I don't know that it's in anyone's favor. We want to make it less tedious. We just give out less code. No, you only have to do that once a week. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Or is that lovely suggestion in the chat? We'll just make it all Twitch drops. That's the...
I think back in the day, like back before we even released the game and we were kind of developing the chest opening screen, one of the ideas that I had was to kind of have a chest sort of sitting there on the ground that is associated with each kind of code that is out there that is sort of active. And then you kind of click it and it says like, hey, to get this code, go out to whatever stream. Here's a link to the stream. Get the code, come back and enter it here, and you can open this chest as sort of a way to kind of advertise all the places where you can get codes and then have people sort of come back in. And so, it was going to be something kind of interesting. And that's just kind of turned into that stream of codes. Anyway.
You digress. Moving on to the next question.
I do digress. Next question is from Luke Cavern, who asks, any chance of making all champion seats visible at the start of an adventure? This would allow for setting up familiars and automation when starting a new campaign.
Yeah, so I guess currently they are grayed out until you have enough available funds to purchase them, and then they're their grade, correct? It's not a case of just showing the previous one, it's the ones that you can afford. Which I think when you start a new campaign, you don't have very much currency to start, and so they end up being gray. But once you're a little bit in, you quickly get enough that you could show them. Yeah, and why is that originally? Did we do that originally just to not overwhelm players with?
That's literally a thing from the new player flow, where we don't want a brand new player to come in and see like 12 champions, some of which cost E to the 16 gold. But it is something that I know in Crusaders we certainly have enabled that feature. So when you first load, or when you can do a toggle in Crusaders and have all the champions show up as soon as you start an adventure.
Right. So it feels like something we could add via setting. And hopefully you're advanced enough by the time you can find that setting that seeing them all at once doesn't overwhelm you. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think it only takes half a dozen adventures before you've seen all 12 slots.
Yep, makes sense. Okay, next question here is from Hufik, asking, are you planning any prioritization for familiars? Sometimes when using ultimates, you want to have control over which ultimate is pressed first, rather.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I'm not entirely sure how we would set up UI for that. I can definitely see the use case. There are certainly ultimates that you want to have go first, and there's ultimates that you want to have go last, because the order that you do them in can provide a bigger boost. Sometimes you want to like do an ultimate and then wait for your DPS to hit to set your bud up, and then go use your other ultimates based on that new bud. So I could see the use case for it. I'm not sure how we would set that up, just from a user interface perspective.
Yeah, that would need some thought.
Yeah,
especially if we're going to and do it in a way that makes it clear as to how it's set. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, that's always the hard part.
And good UI. It's certainly, it seems like a very, very technical kind of request. Yeah. Let's see. The next question is from Dota2 We are both doing really poorly at reading today. What is in the water? From Dota2 Norax, and they ask, to save energy, could it be possible to lock a team into gem farm and have it generate gems in offline mode as in online mode, so we can switch off the PC from time to time, and or for other consoles to keep up with PC pace?
Yeah, so this is kind of an interesting question, because it does make me wonder if this is in addition to the Modron setup for this, or if this is something like if this player is new and hadn't gotten to that yet, or if this was a question around like a third type system, because certainly if you can set up your Modron gem farm, and many players do, and I think it should be pretty much as effective, if not more effective, than leaving the game open. So unless I'm missing something on that, this could just be a case of not having progressed far enough to know that was an option. I don't know if Dota 2's in the chat today and might be able to clarify what they were asking.
If they are sort of a more advanced player, certainly I know that a lot of the gem farming groups will have more speed champions in them, and a lot of those speed abilities won't work. Hey, they are in chat. A lot of those speed abilities won't work in offline progress, or offline mode or background mode. So you want to have, if you want to gem farm the fastest, you want to have that party be your active party. And that is something that we are currently trying to address. I know Mark is currently working on offline progress, trying to, we're rewriting it and rebuilding it from the ground up to make it better and hopefully, I got some wood around here somewhere. Hopefully make it so that a lot of those abilities can function in offline progress and function at a similar rate in offline progress.
I gave Mark the instruction to throw out the old system and start again, and this time not embarrass us.
So yeah, I mean, hopefully in the future, the background parties will just function as well as the foreground parties, or at least a lot better than they currently do. And in that case, you could certainly, turn off the computer, and when you come back, ideally you would have a similar number of gems as you would if you had it on. That's the dream. That's the blue sky kind of goal, but we'll see how close we get to that.
And kind of context on that, and for a lot of players who have been sort of watching us struggle with the offline progress issues over the last, since the Modron systems were released.
Since the inception of offline progress.
It was one of those systems that grew in terms of the features that were required for it and the spec that it was supposed to be able to cover. And so, I mean, this is something that initially started as an offline gold approximation while you were away and levels, and then it grew from there to be able to progress, what areas you'd completed and include some additional stats that were used. And then it grew to be part of the actual progress for the Modron offline when that was running. And then it grew to include that and multiple parties. And it all ended up sort of stacked on top of it, on top of the previous feature set in a way that, as those were built, often left behind pieces that were part of the previous set because we didn't want to break anything. And it's gotten to the point where it's actually a very confusing and difficult system to manage. And so I'm very optimistic that starting at this point with a system that knowing all of the features, at least all of the features so far that it's required to support, including a very specific and a place for all of the characters' offline or active abilities to function well in offline mode, and where to hook that up properly should make things going forward work a lot better, as well as be a lot easier to work with. And being easier to work with means that when there are issues with it, that we can track those down a lot quicker. So it should A, work better, and B, it should be easier to work with for us. And so those two things together have me fairly optimistic that we'll be able to squash a lot of those issues that players have been reporting to us for literally 2 years. So, but we'll see when that gets finished. But it is has 100% of a developer's time on it, and has for the last couple of weeks, and will until it is finished. So.
Cool. And the last question we have from the previous show is from Jem Duscher-Zocker. Looks German to me. I don't speak German. And they are asking, can we please have the option back to disable the click animation of familiars? Or why was it removed in the first place?
So, to my knowledge, that wasn't removed. It's tied to the setting disable flashing. Flashing. Anyways, disable flashing effects, I think is what it's called in the settings, and that's what disables the click animation for familiars. If you're there and wondering, and if anyone else is wondering the same thing. All right, into today's questions. First question of the day is from Super Fluffy Kitty. Close enough. Not really. Now nerds are in the gem store. Will their feats be revisited to make them patron viable? I feel like this question has come in every week.
Yes, and so I figure I may as well answer it since we're just going to keep on asking it until I do. So we don't have any plans right now to revisit the nerds' feats. They're still very anachronistic to the game, and there's no real push for me to make them super viable, and that's basically it. We've got 100 other champions that I'm much more interested in making sure they work in the game. So at some point we may revisit nerds, but it's not a priority for me.
Tell us how you really feel about that champion, Justin. Come on.
I like the nerds candy, the ones that it was part of that. I ate a whole bunch of those. Oh,
way too sweet for me.
My poor tummy.
Next question is from Emote, asking, do you have any news on the Modron nodes becoming disabled if they receive more than 2 e to the 9 flow? It becomes very tricky to supercharge a node when 5 e to the 8 is the max supercharge and a burst pipe is 2 e to the 9. It's a very tiny window where it's maxed and works.
Yeah, that's a bug. So we'll make sure that gets fixed. We should just cap out the flow when it reaches sort of max int, which I think that is 2 e to the 9. So it should just cap out the flow and then not go up from there. Next question is from Hypnotic Sheep, and they ask, can an option be added to disable floating damage numbers? They add a lot of visual clutter and a good amount of lag and aren't very useful past a certain point.
Yeah, so I flagged this question because I know this is one of the things that we often avoid hiding, because we don't want to end up with the game in a state where things look like they're broken. And so damage numbers not popping up is one of those things that falls into the bucket of we don't want that to accidentally get disabled and then add the concern of, hey, my game is broken. But I was thinking about it. It does seem like some kind of a warning on that could be tagged such that it would let players know, hey, just a reminder, this is disabled, because I think the point of they add a lot of visual clutter and a good amount of lag actually might be true in both cases. I know that creating a lot of those text items was something that I put in some time optimizing about 1.5 years ago, because there was some lag related to that, and turning that off, especially on systems that are not quite so powerful, that actually could have an impact of a couple of frames. And then of course the visual clutter. So I think we can think about that and see if there is a way that we could do that, and then of course make sure players know that they have turned it off. But like I said, it is one of those things that does feel like it needs it needs thought, and it is one of the things that we try not to do because of the fact that it can lead to concern that things aren't working. I don't know. Did you have any thoughts on that in particular, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if there's a way we can kind of combine them or something, like some other thing that's useful, so that, like you say, we can still have them popping up, but not have them causing that clutter or having the appearance of causing lag.
Yeah. Well, I think
nothing kind of pops to mind.
It's not necessarily an appearance in the sense when there was like, you have like 100. If you had 100 of them,
and they all get hit at once,
and it creates 100 of those texts, that actually can, impact the frame rate by a couple of frames.
The creation of them, certainly. Yeah.
Not once they're on there, it's fine. It's that actual initial creation of the text, because that actually generates mesh for each of them. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Next question is from Emote. Did you forget to give Celise some tanking feats for the year 4 balance changes?
Possibly. I thought that we had hit all of our tanks with tanking feats, but I will highlight this and pass and do a double check here to make sure that we didn't accidentally miss that. Celise is a tank. They should have some tanking feats.
Okay. Next question from OG17. Nodrim's alignment was CN in his original game, fitting the character's backstory in essence. Do you know why it changed to the standard Modron LN in the remake, which I guess is canon?
I actually don't know why it changed in the remake, but that is the one that we used. So I think you'll have to log into the dev insights for for that game and ask them.
All right.
I don't actually think they do a dev insights. We're the only guys cool enough to do that.
That aside, next question here, which is a callback to a question that was asked numerous shows ago and perhaps has come up since then. And this is a question from Maskill. I'm saying that right, I hope. What about the missing node on the strong core? Is it coming soon? And for context, this is one that had 29 nodes instead of 30, which was pointed out to us a few episodes back.
Yes, and I did not. I guess that didn't get passed on to Peter. I didn't pass it on to Peter, and I guess, I think we highlighted it, but I guess it just didn't get passed on or clarified.
Wasn't it on you to change that design? Do you think Peter was gonna?
Well, I just draw the picture in Google Docs, and then I give it to the dev team, and they implement it. So,
yeah, the last one you did looked like a spaceship.
No spoilers. Let's see. Let us continue on. The next question is from Polcott, or maybe Polcott, and they ask, shouldn't the code end in a question mark?
Yes, it should. And I was told very rudely when I suggested that it be a question mark that we did not have that character.
I don't think it was said rudely. It was just kind of, we don't have a question mark.
It's like, didn't you know? I did not know. I know now. I feel like we should add that. Is there a reason we don't have that? Like, was it an oversight that there's no question mark on the redemption wheel? Is this?
I don't know. Maybe there's just so many characters, and you already have to like scroll through them if you don't have a keyboard, that we're like, let's do one less. Yeah. That'll be 1/27th less characters someone has to scroll through. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But we don't have it, and that's why. So it should. I agree. I fully agree it should end in a question mark.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next question from JabSys. Why use such a system if the reasoning behind the Briv nerf was to ease server load? Or was that never really the reason?
Yeah, so, I mean, the Briv definitely had some server load issues with very quick skipping. I think we did some investigation of that, and I think we found a couple ways to accommodate or deal with that without, separate from this change. This change was really made because Briv is being used to skip content that we don't want you to skip. We don't want you to be able to complete the final adventures in the Vernus campaign without having to defeat Tiamat, because that's really just it's not fun. Imagine if you could beat Dark Souls without defeating any bosses. Like, is that really an interesting game? So
Sorry,
that was
did you
kind of
just
the
compare
main.
us to Dark Souls?
I did. We're just like Dark Souls, guys. Uh, so yeah, the main reasoning behind the Briv nerf was to deal with that, and that's why we left it so that you can still skip bosses on gem farming, because if you put a whole bunch of levels into Briv and you're using that to go faster, then okay, that's fine, as long as you don't go so fast that you're beating 2,000 areas in a second and a half, because then you start to cause server issues again, and then you get snapped by our auto ban thing. So the main reasoning behind the Briz nerfs was so that we could be more like Dark Souls.
Well, I think Alex would play more then. Where are we at here? So I was highlighting more questions. All right, next question here is from Is It Chris? Well, it's not our Chris, but
I don't know. Is it?
I don't know. I don't think so. Nevertheless, the question is, could saving formations also save the equipped feats? Use case I'm thinking of is if I start a patron adventure and load a formation, it would load the stat feats I have saved in the formation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good use case for and a really good example of why save formations, saving the equipped feats could be useful. I know last show we talked quite a bit about save formations saving specializations, and that potentially being a challenge, but I can't think of any challenges right off the bat around saving equipped feats and swapping out feats. Yeah, it's certainly something we've been asked before, and I think this example that you provided is a really good motivation for why that would make sense.
Yeah, I feel like the feats not being included was more of an oversight because of the timing, because the feats came out significantly later than the save system. Mm-hmm. So tag that. Yeah. Could be looked at. Okay.
Tagged.
Next question. This one is from JDog2773. When dismantling legendaries, when you forge them again with the potions, will it go through all 6 first or all random?
So I guess the answer is dismantling legendaries doesn't change sort of the memory on the champion of which legendaries have been forged. So it would forge them randomly. You wouldn't have to go through all 6. If you were to go and use those potions on other champions, it would function just like you crafted. Basically, when you use the potion, it functions just like you're crafting a legendary on that champion. So if you had already seen all of the effects, you'd get a random one. If you haven't seen all of the effects, you would get one of the ones you haven't seen. So that is the way that should work.
Okay. Next question. Ford Cross asks, while we may understand the logic behind capping the maximum refund for an Evergreen Champion, will the same cap be set for event champs that some of us spent money to get that high?
Yeah, so the maximum refund for item levels is the same for all champions, whether they're Evergreen or event champions. I mean, I think to be completely fair, I don't think anyone has spent enough money on an individual champion to get 10,000 item levels for that champion. In terms of actual money, that's, we're talking thousands and thousands of dollars on an individual champion. So I don't think that's really a legitimate use case. I think certainly people have spent, a lot of blacksmithing contracts, but most of those come out of farming. So I think in terms of, is 10,000 item levels enough to account for spent money stuff? I think the answer to that is most definitely yes. It's going to be 10,000 for all. We actually looked up a lot of the numbers here, and the vast majority, like we're talking 99.99% of players, have item levels under 10,000. So it's not very often, especially for an event champion, that that there's going to be any sort of levels left over after a refund or after a dismantle.
All right. Where are we at?
We are at question
Bruce,
16.
Yes, I see it. Okay. Next question here is from Bruce Flash. And Bruce asks, what's the item level cap for Human Slot 4?
Yeah, so I saw this question a whole bunch, actually, and a bunch of people asked it. Fuhrer Pills and Dauntless 113 also asked this right around the similar time. And I don't have the specific item level cap around. The sort of balance we're aiming at for Human is that if you have the normal feat and the epic feat, and you're sort of he's optimally used in the formation, and you're at a capped epic item, that you should be able to skip or you should be able to get through an area in 4 or 5 kills. So that's what we're aiming at, and so whatever the item level cap needs to be for the tweaked numbers for slot 4 to make that happen, that is what it will be set at. And I'm also
that keyword.
Yes, I'm also being told that there's the giveaway is going to start, and so now I get to do my little giveaway rant, which I enjoy doing every episode. So very, very shortly, you'll be able to type something into chat, which will open which will get you an entry into a raffle. God, I do this every stream, and I don't know how to say it. You'll be able to enter a raffle to be able to win 42 chests of your choice. They can be any of the chests that exist in the game, except for Glory of Bahamut chests or chests for unreleased champions. Don't try and do that. Well, no spoilers, people. You can get gold chests. You could get Electrum chests, I guess, if you wanted to. You can get event chests, like for a specific champion. My personal favorite would be Modron component chests. So anyway, you'll be able to enter that momentarily. The keyword for this week's raffle will be Cake Envy. So as soon as you see that pop up in chat that the giveaway has started, you'll type Cake Envy, and that will enter you for a chance to win 42 chests of your choice. And hopefully that'll start really soon. I'm just kind of watching the chat to see if Martin's starting that. And I'm sure there we go. And now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds of lag, and bam. Okay. So there we go. Enter Cake Envy in chat now for a chance to win 42 chests of your choice. Good luck.
Cake Envy.
I would really like some cake. I think Mars should ship us some of his cake. Actually, you know what? With 200 candles in it, I do not want any of that particular cake. But, some other cake.
We can make our own cake, and it'll have blackjack, and I can't say the rest of it on stream, can I?
Yeah,
anyway,
no, we're not allowed to.
Oh, the message.
Oh. Mars says that he promises me the cake was terrible. And he tried it. Oh, I'm so sorry, man. That's awful. I imagine all the wax would have just dripped into it, and
wax,
like the
wax icing. Yeah,
the bottom part of it only. Anyway, okay, let's move on to some more questions, because you're all here for questions, not us to banter with our moderators via a Google Doc. So the next question is from Porkbelly517, and they're saying, I'm typically a type of person that likes a full collection in games. Are there any talks of ways to collect the lower rarity items once you hit the item level cap? So this would be for like a slot 6 item. You get the slot 6 epic item, and then but you don't have the common and uncommon, and then you somehow reach the item level cap. You would no longer get any more of those items, really, no matter what. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a big challenge there.
Yeah, it could be really infuriating if you're attempting to fill that page, filling the collection screen, and it's just they're gone forever.
I know we've talked about having some sort of mechanic to try and fill those. And I think if we did something like, say we did a specific type of chest or something you could buy in a store, for gems or something that gives you a lower rarity item you don't have, I think we would probably set that up so it would ignore the item cap, the item level caps, just to try and backfill that. And I think that's probably the way that we would have to approach that, because I don't think we'd want to kind of mess with chests and have chests, just normal chests, be dropping items that don't give you any benefit, because that's, aside from completing your collection, which is a benefit, but not one that is impactful to your progress through the game. So yeah, I think we'd have to make it something that was kind of separate from the chest thing. It's something for design to think about, but yeah.
Okay, next question here from Dota2 Norax is, when is the 400% skip feat for Briv coming?
You missed the beginning of the show. It's coming next Wednesday. That is coming. Oh, and we get to see who won the giveaway. Congratulations, Riamus 2. Please check your whispers for how to claim your prize. Okay, next question we have here is from Is It Chris? Again, I still don't know. Maybe
it's a mystery. Should champions available in the patron shops be taken out of time gates and be reclassified as evergreen for silver and gold chests? So this is champions available in the patron shops. I guess if you buy there's some of them where if you buy their skin or something like that, it also unlocks the champion. I think that would have to be it.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. No, they're not really evergreen. They're still event champions, even though there's other ways to get them. I mean, you can also, we tend to do very often giveaways for champions as well. We certainly wouldn't want to make those, take those out of time gates and put them into silver and gold chests. So yeah, I don't think there's any plans to change the behavior of those champions. Right.
And because I saw it asked in the chat earlier, for players who aren't familiar with the terminology, how would you classify evergreen for them?
So the evergreen champions are basically the 12 champions that you start with, and then Hitch, who you can get by signing up for the Idle Champions weekly newsletter, and then any of the champions that you can recruit through permanent campaigns. So for the most part, it's any champion that you get from a source other than an event, or a time gate, I guess, for event champions that have those sort of rotated out of their events.
Right. And they're classified this way because their leaves do not fall off. Right?
Yes, okay. The leaves do not fall off, and they all have eyes to stab.
Holds up. Okay.
Next question from Battle Pickle 615. I usually answer this one, so I'm going to give it to you. Anyway, we can toggle off specific ultimates, i.e., the nerds or silly stances, from the familiar's roaming bar.
So this is kind of like the inverse of the question you answered earlier, which was to have a sort of to prioritize specific ultimates being used, or often there's the question of to have a familiar specifically only on one ultimate. We do support that, don't we? Or is it always just the roaming? Yes.
Yeah. No, we support individual ultimates, or individual familiars on individual ultimates, and they will use that ultimate as soon as it comes up. Yeah.
So I mean, obviously the goal here is to be able to run more ultimates with less familiars. I guess specific stances, right? Ones you actually just don't want to have change. That makes more sense, actually. My bad. Yeah. I guess sort of two questions. One is sort of how we would set that up, and then the second question is that a functionality? Is that functionality that makes sense to be there? And sort of my gut feeling is for some of them that functionality does make sense to be there because you don't want your familiar to activate something that just changes the changes the mode of the champion. You really want that ultimate there to be something that's letting off the bonuses and attacks and that sort of fun stuff. So yeah, I mean that does seem like something that would be nice to have.
It's just a matter of how it's set up.
Yeah, because would you want that always to be the case? Would you want certain ultimate abilities just to be tagged as like never activate this?
No, I don't think so. I think we still want it to be a choice for players, and there may or may not be a champion coming out in the future who will power up the more ultimates that are used in an adventure. So that kind of thing, you might actually want to stick an ultimate on Nerds or Solis and just have them sort of, changing stances and swapping around as often as possible. But it's got to be a choice, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I could see us doing it with maybe having a little lock or something on the corner of the ultimate, and you could click it and it locks it for familiars. Anyway,
yeah,
it's functionality that would be nice. It's not 100% clear on exactly how it would be would be displayed. Okay, moving on to the next question. We have one here from Vovkes. And the question is, how does Dungeon Master match with other hero stat abilities like Xerophone, Zorbu, Dex, Krydal, Charisma, Narak, Wisdom, Grim, Strength, or similar? How does Dungeon Master match with boss abilities like Dragon Breath with 10% save for each Dex above 10 or similar abilities? All 4 patron chests include Dungeon Master items or Mert only.
So my understanding of Dungeon Master is that his stats behind the scenes are all 20s. So I think he qualifies for pretty much everything. The only sort of stuff he wouldn't qualify is where it's like X or lower, unless it was like it might be 18. Okay, it's 18. All 18s. It was all 20s at some point, but I guess it got all pulled down. So anything that requires that 18 would qualify for, he should qualify for. I think you can get his items in all patron chests. I'm pretty sure because he is available, because he makes himself available for anything, you should be able to get loot for him in all patron chests. For saves and stuff, he's got that 18. So he's just like an 18. Even though I think we put the question marks in his character sheet just for fun, because it's kind of our 100th champion and we wanted to have some fun with him, but they're essentially all 18s. Maybe we could find a way to make that more obvious while still maintaining the question marks. Anywho, something to think about.
All right. Moving forward, the next question here is from Yoda Ate My Head.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Would it be possible to get stat boost feats put in a more permanent place on the character sheet? In real D&D, when your stats go up, they stay that way. Then we never have to decide between adventure eligibility and ability boosting, which doesn't feel great.
So the answer to this is we don't necessarily want, and I don't think not everyone would necessarily want stat boosts to always be permanent. There are some situations where you may want to enable someone for a patron or disable them. A good example is if you don't want to get Celeste loot in one of your patron chests, in like your Vajra patron chest, I guess, then you could remove the feat that allows her to qualify for that patron. I think maybe I'm thinking of the wrong champion. Anyway, there's feats that allow you to qualify for patrons. By taking those off, you can limit what loot goes into what patron chest. So I think there are some improvements that I want to do to feats. We are talking. Design is talking about doing some improvements to feats later this year. And some of those abilities might be just a way to make it easier to kind of toggle the stat feats on and off without needing to necessarily take up a feat slot, and some other ideas that it's really much too early to really talk about in any sort of solid way. But yeah, there's it's definitely something that we're looking at in ways to make the feats a little bit more user friendly.
Okay. Next question from Fewer Pills. Will hue change with hue change and the mention that you should use more than one champion for speed, to what I understand, can we get away for Havilar to get her imps out automatically without scripting and using external programs? For example, like a feat for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think this is something that we've mentioned on previous shows, and Havilar is definitely a prime target for some sort of feat that will just cause her to start with her imps out, probably specifically the imp that provides the speed bonus. So I will highlight that, and we will take a look at that. I think it would probably be a feat of some sort in order to enable that behavior.
All right. Next question. This one is from Mike Baldy. Mike asks, can you explain the Briv nerf a bit more? I don't quite understand it, as I can skip every single boss in a variant just by doing it in the background. And I don't even need to have Briv in that party. So he can be in my main party gem farming, which makes much more sense anyways. Mm-hmm. It just kind of seems like not a great way to limit or to use limited dev cycles.
Yeah, so it's not about skipping the bosses that you could just one-shot. It's about skipping bosses that would actually keep you back. So the really challenging fights like the Tiamat example, or a lot of the kind of full screen bosses where there's some sort of gimmick that it's just that's just helpful if you're there and leveling up. Offline progress is not intended to just get you past bosses that you couldn't defeat if you weren't in online mode. So, the same is true for Briv. We don't want Briv to get you past, if Briv gets you past a boss that you could defeat in just without any effort, then sure, I mean, that's not a big problem. But if he gets you past bosses that would otherwise wipe your party, then that is that is what we're trying to address.
That feels like that's really downplaying, the special abilities the bosses have. These
gimmicks?
These are gimmicks, you say? I don't know.
They're cool gimmicks, but they're different.
The next time someone's working on a boss, I'm going to ask them, have you finished implementing the gimmick yet? Yeah. Okay. Next question here is from Garwar. Garwar asks, what are your on Narak making Celise and everyone in her column completely invulnerable to damage due to the Gizraki focus? Gizraki focus? What am I? I'm
it looks like that's
wrong.
All we have time for. If we didn't get to your question this week, okay.
We got at least time to answer that.
So, this is a good question. I honestly just learned about this just before the show in terms of this particular gimmick, this particular mechanic. So it's not something that we've had a chance to take a look at. In general, I am not a fan of abilities that make champions completely invulnerable. There are a lot of, we were kind of discussing it before in the design channel, and there are a lot of kind of these edge cases that are popping up more and more that we definitely would like to address at some point. Specifically around health, healing, damage reduction, stuff like that. A lot of them that there are ways that they can scale exponentially were never really intended. The intention is for damage should scale exponentially, but healing, health, damage reduction should just scale sort of multiplicatively like they kind of normally do. But there's a couple of abilities. Narak does some fun stuff. Arcan, obviously, with Usurp and Artemis. Those three kind of break things that are health and healing and damage reduction related. And I'm not super super happy with some of those things. But as we say, we're just kind of starting to explore what ways those should be capped now. And we don't really have anything solid, any sort of solid reactions to those quite yet. Apparently, I'm very interested in eyes. Gith their eye.
And stabbing them. All right, moving on. We got enough time for one or two more questions. So.
Oh, okay. Let's see. There's a question from the Lurking Writer who asks, what led to the campaign map being the default page when loading up the game and not the main menu, as in most other video games?
Yeah, so actually the campaign map per se isn't the default page, as in more so it's the wherever you left the game is the default page. So that means that when you open it up, it just hops back into whatever campaign you were on, and if you're not on a campaign, then it goes to the campaign map. But otherwise, adding that extra step of just hitting continue game, I could have had that in, but I think it was just easier to have it open immediately back to where you were, so that's what we did. I don't know that was a conscious decision. It sort of followed from what we'd originally done in Crusaders, and
yeah, I think it followed from back when we were less of a kind of Steam PC game and more of a web game. Not Idle Champions started as a web game, but some of our older games started as web games. And
but even they often
in those you generally
like the start page.
Sometimes I guess we never really did that though. We always just kind of you had a loading bar and then you're in the game. We're like get you in there as fast as we can. We don't need to stop for any sort of
anyway
menus.
That's the reason it drops you back to where you were. So not specifically the campaign map, but yeah. Let's see,
you want to do one more?
I did, and actually I think what we want to do is let's just read this, which is effectively just a shout out from Idle and Chill saying, can I add that I love how much support you guys give this game and how open you are with the community. Makes the game even better. So thank you very much, Idle and Chill. And there's a last question. I think this is probably the final question that we can do, and I'm a little disturbed by it. The question is by Navalus, and they ask, can you tell if there's any new dwarf champions in the oven? They say they're a dwarf fan, but I'm not like this.
I'm just going to pretend they're just asking if there are any new dwarf champions coming out, and ignore their questionable phrasing. I don't think there are any dwarf champions in the next half dozen or so. But there will certainly be more dwarf champ. No, Baker's dozen's 13.
Oh, that's right. Oh, right.
Certainly I think we'll definitely have some more dwarves in the future. A lot of champions want more dwarves. Binwin wants more dwarves. If you use Ishii loves having dwarves around.
They're delicious.
Shara with the dwarfs. Anyone ever choose the humans and dwarves? No? Or is it humans and elves? See, even I don't know what the non-pope
fried up with a little butter.
Anyway, Brunor wants more dwarves. We know that. There's probably going to be more dwarfs coming. We'll probably try and keep them away from the oven, though.
I think it looks like this is really all the time we have for.
Yeah, we've gone way downhill. Yes, so that's all we have time for real this time. And if we didn't get to your question this week, don't worry, you'll have another opportunity. We will be live again at this same time next week, because we're live every week at the same time. But before we sign off, we would like to thank our tireless mods, Mars and Martin. They're the ones who copy your questions into our questions doc and generally help to make things awesome in chat. So thanks, guys.
And of course, thanks to all of you for hanging out, watching the stream, asking such great questions, and enjoying the game, because without you, no one here would get to do what we do.
Yeah, we'd have to do something else.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Fade to outros. There we go.
We could let the dwarves into the oven if they were going to use it to cook, I think.
Yeah, I mean, baking. I like baking dwarves are fine because they'll make us some bread, but baking dwarves is not good because the FBI will show up at our door.
That feels like an anachronism.